Well, I certainly hope that everybody had a fantastic weekend. You can now settle in on this Sunday evening as we reset during this busy 49ers stretch. 2 weeks ago, free agency opened up. The 49ers have added a handful of players. They've been one of the busiest teams in the entire NFL over that stretch. And in a week, I'll be in Phoenix for the NFL owners meetings, or I'll talk to John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, and Jed York. The owners' meetings are the formal transition from free agency to NFL draft season. So I can update you right now that the 49ers have 17 roster spots left to fill. How do I know? Well, we've got the counter down here. 72 of 90 are filled with players not named Brandon Ayuk, but he has taken up a roster spot. So technically, if the 49ers do decide to hold Brandon Ayuk for a long time, they will have to forego one of those 90 spots. That's why I say 17 open at this point. Remember, they currently have six. Sorry, they traded away one of their picks. They have 6 picks in the 2026 NFL draft. So we can take a look at the moves the 49ers have made so far. We can check in on their salary cap situation. I've done actually a lot of work on the 49ers salary cap this weekend. This morning, I was up early. I was up at like 5:30 a.m. I went to the coffee shop right when they opened, and I started crunching some numbers for the 2027 salary cap as well, because that's got to be really, really important to keep in mind, because we have to start thinking about rollover space. Whatever the 49ers don't use here in 2026 will roll over as salary cap space into 2027. This right here is the 49ers 2026 salary cap sheet. And as you can see, right now, 17.94 million. The reason that's lower than some of the salary cap websites is because I have essentially already factored in the 49ers practice squad and the cost of their 2026 draft class. So this is going to be a more accurate way to picture how the 49ers can still maneuver moving forward here in 2026. And because I've also crunched the 2027 numbers, you can click on the tab down at the bottom. I've just toggled over to 2027. You can see they've got a ton of expenses already in 2027, big cap hits for some of these superstar players. Christian McCaffrey, for example, $26.4 million. That is up significantly over his number of $10.9 million this year. Anyway, because those costs escalate, the 49ers are going to have to carry over a significant amount of unused space. I've got $343.92 million in liabilities for 2027 right now. That is up over $20 million in liabilities over what they have in 2026. Just gives you an idea of how the 49ers have pushed a lot of this into the future. In fact, I think it's going to come to an inflection point in 2027 where the 49ers are going to have to make a lot of difficult decisions regarding the future of their offense, which currently is the oldest in the NFL. Made a big video about the fact that just came out this morning about the fact that the 49ers have the oldest offense in the league entering 2026. Not necessarily something wrong with that. It's something to keep in mind, though. They have the third youngest defense. There's quite a dichotomy, and it sets up a very interesting crossroads following this season. Here's a little excerpt from that video that I put out this morning in case you have not been able to watch yet. Take a look at this diagram for the 49ers offense. Red shade means that a player will be on the wrong side of 30 in this upcoming 2026 season. And it just so happens that every single one of these players has $0 to a very minimal amount of guaranteed money remaining on their contracts in 2027. Maybe you can call it a last dance kind of scenario, but not for the whole 49ers team, mainly for that San Francisco 49ers offense. And yes, the offense for the 49ers, at some point, they're going to have to modernize. And I think that the writing is on the wall that the modernization, a lot of it's going to have to happen in the 2027 offseason. This offseason, they haven't cared. They've gone for more experience over the course of free agency. It started with the addition of Mike Evans at wide receiver. I think it continued with their two signings along the offensive line, and Vidarian Lowe and Brett Toth. Both of those guys, veterans who can provide better depth than in the past for the 49ers. And maybe even we see Brett Toth start at left guard. The offseason theme will continue once Trent Williams re-signs with San Francisco, as we expect that to happen. They're going to double down on experience for the offensive side of the football. And by the way, he is already under contract, Trent Williams, this season. There have been a lot of weird takes. It's like, well, Trent Williams, I mean, this is not good. The 49ers, should be worried about him testing the market. Newsflash, he's under contract. He can't test the market. So the 49ers staying with experience at that left tackle position. And of course, the latest on that happened this past Friday. The 49ers declined to pick up the $10 million option, but it simply rolled over into base salary. And because of that, you can see here on the salary cap chart, Trent Williams' number is now $46.3 million against the cap this season. 49ers hope to get that renegotiated by the time of the NFL draft, which is just about a month away. If you can knock that down 20 million, 46.3 million to about 24 million, well, cut off 22 million of cap spending. You could add 22 million to 18, the number right here. And, well, I think that's a really pretty number for the 49ers to enter the season at. 40 million of salary cap space. That would allow them some breathing room in case they wanted to trade for a player. I do have to make a correction. Mike corrected me the other day, and he was right. If you do trade for a player, even if you renegotiate his deal immediately, in order to facilitate the trade, in order for the trade to go through with the league office, you need to have enough salary cap space to absorb that player's existing contract. So say that the 49ers wanted to trade for Max Crosby before the deadline of the 2026 season. This is just hypothetical, but his salary cap hit that the 49ers would have to acquire at that point would be close to $20 million because he's got, $30 million in base salary this year. If you traded for him just before the halfway mark, it would be prorated, but it would still be close to $20 million that you'd have to absorb right away. If you only have this much salary cap space, if you only have $17.94 million, you wouldn't be able to make a trade for Max Crosby, even if your plan was to immediately restructure him. So you want to open up as much space as possible to work with in the near term so that you can make surprise moves like that. Obviously, in the past, the 49ers have made surprise in-season trades. Probably the most notable one was the trade for Christian McCaffrey back during the 2022 season. Mike also pointed out that not many teams can trade for Trent Williams now that his number is so big. The 49ers essentially moved $10 million from option bonus, which was prorated on their books, over into a base salary. So now you're looking at a base salary of $32.2 million for Trent Williams. If a team does trade for Trent, they would have to fit all $32 million at this point into their salary cap situation right now. And there aren't a whole lot of teams with that much salary cap room left to spare. The 49ers would be one of them, but only after they restructure Trent Williams, right? That's why the 49ers want to have more flexibility. That's one of the main reasons why they want to get this done. They don't want to carry around a $46.3 million number this year because it does leave them potentially hamstrung when they're looking to make outside deals. Anyway, I'm going to answer your questions tonight. I'm sure that you'll have a lot of good ones. I'm sure we can talk about free agents still on the board across the NFL. I think the 49ers, glaring spot of need. They've modernized the defense. It's gotten younger, but they've got a lot of injuries, a lot of guys coming off of surgeries and such along the defensive line. I don't project more than 8 of the players or 7 of the players currently on the 49ers roster to make the 53-man cut down for San Francisco, and that comes up in a few months. And as you can see, a lot of them have the pink injury shade here. So yes, Joey Bosa remains available. Yes, Joel Bitonio remains available along the offensive line if he decides to play this next season. So that's a big asterisk. Yes, David Njoku remains available at tight end, but there are some good-looking tight ends who should be available in the NFL draft. There are still positions of need across this 49ers roster. And I think most notably, again, I've got the counter here. They've had 72 of 90 spots taken right now with only 6 draft picks coming up. So we still do expect a handful of signings in the veteran free agent market for the 49ers, especially since they still do have money to work with. I, on the San Francisco Standard, went through my big salary cap equation just this past week, and the same one still applies, although the 49ers have taken up some of the space ever since then. Here is a look at that salary cap breakdown, though, up on the Standard that you should definitely be familiar with if you want to understand the math behind all of this. I'm going to send this over to Mike, and he's going to put this into the description. That is the link. Maybe I could even toss this into the comments section so everybody can have an appreciation for the salary cap math that the 49ers are facing. This is how most contracts are structured. That's a look at Mike Evans' deal. The staggered structure has led to a salary cap hit of only $4.25 million here in the first year. And then I've got the big equation, which you can find highlighted right here up on the San Francisco Standard. 49ers, they have a little bit less now, obviously, but for San Francisco to get to the point where they want to be for carryover room and for in-season flexibility, they do need to figure out a way to reduce Trent Williams' cap hit. I think they can still fit somebody like Joey Bosa. Maybe they're interested in signing a safety as well. We'll keep our eyes on the market. We do know that the 49ers have to sign some players because they cannot fill up the rest of these 17 spots with only rookies. They only have 6 draft picks. That would be a very large rookie class relative to the amount of picks that they do have. All right, time for you guys to ask some good questions. I will be here to answer them. Mike sent me the list of teams who might be able to trade for Trent Williams, just to illustrate, not saying that this is something that's going to happen, just showing you how salary cap dynamics work in the National Football League. And Trent has a $32.2 million base salary now, after the 49ers converted his option bonus into the base salary, the reverse conversion that we saw on Friday. And with that, this is the list of teams with over $32.2 million in salary cap space, courtesy of Over the Cap. The Tennessee Titans have $63.5 million. The Commanders have $49 million. The Chargers right around $49 million as well. The Cardinals, the Jets, the Seahawks, the Patriots, and the Eagles. The 49ers can bump their number up significantly if they can get this Trent Williams number worked down to about $24 million. They'd add about $22 million in space. And I believe the salary cap websites like Over the Cap currently have the 49ers at about 27 or 28 million. So the 49ers with a reworked Trent Williams deal on Over the Cap would skyrocket up to about $49 million in salary cap space, which would put them at number 2 in the league, which just shows you how they operate within the cap. They like to push a lot of the expenses backwards. And I actually went deep into this up on my cap outlook. As are the SF Data Niners X account, they do a great job just showing you how the 49ers push money into the future. As you can see, Purdy's cap hits are just going to get bigger and bigger every single season. Everything is relatively small here in 2026. The only one shaded in red is Trent Williams at $38.8 million, but that will get smaller, I would think, to about $24 million if and when they do work out that extension. So it's going to be in line with Brock Purdy and Nick Bosa's cap hits, and then the 49ers will have free reign here for the 2026 season financially. So it's been an active couple weeks. They've done a lot of financial housekeeping on top of signing all these players. I think it's been tremendously exciting for 49ers fans, and now is what comes next. Those owners meetings and the fill-in of the rest of those veteran spots on this roster. What do we got question-wise? Ayuk is making, well, he's scheduled to make $40 million next year. Let's not say that he's making it. Am I including his salary in that projection? Yes, I am, for the time being. So to answer your question, I include everything, but I also included in a different column. So I'm going to toggle 2027. You could see the 2027 salary cap report. As you can see, I don't have Ayuk listed amongst the 49ers receivers next year. These are the cap hits of the receivers. I have a special section for Brandon Ayuk, which is, it's called special case, 41.45 million. So yeah, if you are no longer, now Ayuk, he's going to count dead money next year. There's going to be quite a bit of it because they paid Ayuk cash already. That's going to have to hit the salary cap. They're going to stave most of that off to 2027, even if he's not on the team. So it's not going to be a number that you can fully eliminate, but there's going to be a big chunk. I think 20, as it stands right now, if it is a post June 1st trade or a post June 1st release, depending on what happens with Ayuk, hell, who knows? Maybe they hold on to him and he doesn't show up and they don't have to pay him at all. And the 49ers would be more than okay with keeping his proration as is. And they deal with, be able to slash this number in 2027. But if it were a clean post June 1st cut for Ayuk, this 41 million number would turn into something like 21 million. And you still have quite a bit of liabilities in 2027. But that is a fair question. Natasha asks, any update on the 49ers getting Joey Bosa? No update. They have not met a financial point of agreement at this stage. If they do, then I'm sure Joey will sign. It might be in Joey's best interest to wait until after the draft to sign with a team to see who's weak at edge rusher. Maybe he can get a little bit more money that way. So don't hold your breath. The 49ers, I think, will make some signings this week. I think that typically this wave 2, wave 3 of free agency works through the NFL owners meetings. And then April might be a little bit more quiet as all the 30 visits start happening. So we'll be talking a lot more about the draft over the course of April after we get primed for the draft by John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan over the course of the owners meetings. They're going to be at the Biltmore, the Arizona Biltmore, which is in Phoenix. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Looking forward to hitting Phoenix before it gets 118 degrees every day. It's probably already going to be in the 90s by the time that I hit Phoenix here in late March. I know the San Francisco Giants are probably going to be happy to get out of Scottsdale this week. I'm sure they're leaving at some point right now because they've got the opener. You head back to the big city for the MLB opener. It's against the Yankees, Giants and Yankees on Wednesday night. So sports are going to be heating up. I know that we've been a little bit more checked out of Warriors season lately ever since Jimmy Butler tore his ACL. So thankfully baseball will be there to hold us over at least a little bit up through the NFL draft. And then the 49ers will begin practicing again, OTAs, mini camp. Everybody will take a break for summer vacation. Players will continue working out, hopefully, so they're all ready to go for training camp come late July. Then guess what? Everything starts early for the 49ers this next year. Why? Well, because they play earlier than everybody but the Seattle Seahawks and whomever they play in the opener. But the 49ers and the Rams are going to be in Melbourne, and that game is going to happen on, well, if you're back in the U.S., if you don't travel for this, then that game is going to happen on September, I want to say here, let's go. I think it's going to be September 11th. I'm looking at the calendar. Yes, September 11th. It's going to be it's going to be September 10th back in the US. It will be September 11th out in Melbourne because that game is played on the other side of the international date line. So it's going to be Thursday night in the US, September 10th, 49ers Rams to kick off the season. But it's going to be played on Friday at noon, probably, at the Melbourne Cricket Ground against the Rams. September 11th in Australia, September 10th in the U.S. It's going to be wild flying out there. I already have everything booked. My flight out there on United, we take off in the evening, and we don't land until 2 days later because we cross the date line and we lose the day. So I think I land in Australia in the morning, but I think I lose, like, there's just going to be a day that totally vanishes when I fly out to Sydney first. We're going to try to do a fan meetup in Sydney. At least that's the tentative plan, unless we mix other things. If Lombardi herself comes, and this is still being decided right now, we might do it the other way. We might go Melbourne first and then Sydney on the way home. If you guys have any preferences, if you'd like to encourage her to make the trip to Australia, you can leave all your love in the comment section. But then on the way back, maybe it's even more trippy. On the way back, you take off and you land before you took off by what your phone says. So say that you take off at 5 p.m. Australia time, you land in San Francisco at about 1 or 2 p.m. San Francisco time of the same day, right? Because you cross the date line and you get the day back, and the flight is, I want to say, short enough, but that doesn't really apply to a 16-hour flight. But it is short enough to where, yeah, hours wise, you're sitting there and you're looking at the clock, and yeah, you gain time, so you get the time back. But it's going to be a long, long way across the Pacific Ocean. All right, it is time for you guys to put in some good questions. I'm ready for this as we reset, entering another week of free agency. You want Eddie Piñeiro's salary cap hit? If you ask, I will deliver. Greg is a good viewer of the show. $1.95 million. There you go. There's Eddie Piñeiro's salary cap hit. 49ers were able to add some void years to that contract and really stretch out the damage. Is Kenyon Sadiq a real possibility? Only if he falls down to, I don't know, 18. 49ers are at 27. You got to think, how much ammo do they have to trade up? They traded up for Brandon Ayuk in 2020, a few spots. I don't think that trading up more than 10 spots, like even 10 is probably aggressive. So I don't know also what they think of the offensive tackles who are available. You know, if Monroe Freeling drops a little bit down to the middle of that first round, is that somebody that the 49ers would be willing to trade up for? I'm not saying that he will. Is that a position that they absolutely want to get this offseason, like offensive tackle? I really don't know. Caleb Lomu from Utah is a tackle who may be available a little bit later in the first round, and maybe the 49ers will try to jockey for position there. If there is a position that they would draft in the first round along the offensive line, it's not going to be guard. It's going to be offensive tackle. And we all know the situation with Trent Williams and his advancing age. And we do know that the 49ers would love to set up a succession plan, maybe a left guard succession plan, play left guard in the meantime until Trent Williams abandons the left tackle post. But that is often easier said than done. We got people thinking the 49ers will trade out of the first round. I don't know how you can be so sure. I suppose everything is possible. But yes, they only have 6 picks, and I think a lot of those decisions will not be made until the draft actually happens, until the 49ers come closer to the clock in the first round so they can see who's actually still on the board. We can speculate until our face is blue over the course of the next 4 or 5 weeks, but it's not going to mean anything until the actual draft happens. The draft is a lot like an actual game. You got to be ready to read and react that day. This is a good point from Hugh. Trading up in the first very much might require giving up a 2027 pick, and 2027 is shaping up to be an epic draft. And I don't know if people are going to want to do that. Now, that being said, if nobody's going to want to give up a 2027 first to trade up, maybe the price to trade up goes down. You know, this kind of stuff, it's supply and demand, right? It's going to be business at the end of the day. We got somebody who flew to Western Australia in November, and he says the 23-hour flight was brutal. That sounds brutal. If I ever flew to Western Australia, and I know we got some viewers in Perth, shout out to them, I probably would, you know, you could break it up in different ways. You go to Hawaii, which is 5 hours from San Francisco, and then you could hop on over after you spend some time in Hawaii to Australia or New Zealand. It's going to be about 10 hours to Australia, and then you could do the 5 hours across Australia from Sydney. You do the east coast of Australia first, and then you move to the west coast. Going all the way to Western Australia, to Perth or wherever you went in Western Australia, going all the way there from the U.S. Without breaking up the trip seems to be hellish to me. So I'm glad that you survived that, but it's not something I'm going to catch myself doing. I think that I would break that trip up into pieces. 49ers, thankfully, are only going to Eastern Australia, right? The 49ers are going to Melbourne, which is on the Pacific coast of Australia. They're not going to the Indian Ocean side. You went all the way out to Perth. Nice. I've heard great things. I have heard great things. I just wouldn't fly there 23 hours. I know you didn't go direct. It's almost good you had a layover at that point. I wouldn't want to be on a plane for that long. I think the world's longest flight, what is it? Probably San Francisco or LAX to Singapore. One of those, probably 19 hours or so. Maybe New York over the North Pole to somewhere in Asia. That's too much for me. I mean, some of those airlines you can buy your own suite on the plane for like 30 grand. That's also too much for me. I don't have enough super chats yet to buy a suite on Singapore Airlines for a 19-hour flight. So anyway, anything that long, you're going to want to break it up. This is kind of cool. Sydney is like LA, so Sydney's going to be more of your. I've never been to Australia, so I'm open to all the scouting reports I can get. I heard Melbourne is more hipster. I heard Melbourne is more, and Sydney is going to be. I heard they're about the same size at this point. Sydney used to be bigger. Melbourne is caught up. Melbourne, I'm sure they both have awesome food. People say they get some California vibes out of Australia just because it's on the coast and you've got the spectacular coastal scenery there. We're going to be there. It's going to be what? Spring is going to be starting. It's going to be right around the start of spring in Australia because they're inverted in the southern hemisphere. So hopefully we get some football weather. I know it gets way too hot for football in actual summertime there, which is like winter here in the northern hemisphere. And the Melbourne Cricket Ground is supposedly epic. And I heard they're going to sell that thing out if they haven't started selling tickets yet. I heard they're going to sell that out in the blink of an eye. I'm going to open up the Melbourne Cricket Ground and put a picture up on the screen here. They have a nice big picture I know on their Wikipedia page that we can use. That is, imagine what it's going to be like when the 49ers and the Rams are set up to play here. 100,000 plus, iconic venue. I think this is pretty high res. Look, they beat Brock Purdy with the Toyota sponsorship there. Look at the size of this thing. I didn't know men could build such things, like gladiator vibes, looking at the Coliseum. Now, I don't know how great some of the viewing angles are going to be. Hopefully the press box viewing angle for football is solid, but it's going to be a spectacle nonetheless. And if I'm really far away, then I hope that I could watch on TV, which would be ironic, fly 16 hours just to watch something on TV. But no, it's going to be about the vibes. We're going to do fan meetups in Sydney and in Melbourne. Let us know in the comment section if you're interested in either of those two. We'll start to get head counts. We'll be much more organized about that before it happens. But I can't wait to see this converted to NFL football for the 49ers and the Rams at the start of the season. No, 49ers no longer have Tariq Owens on the team. He was with them for training camp last year. Cricket is big business on Australia. Yep, the cricket grounds. Australian rules football and cricket. You thinking I'm going to need binoculars to watch the game, huh? Well, I'll bring some just in case. Any more good questions? Figured you guys could take a little bit more of a casual live here on Sunday evening. Thoughts on the flag football games yesterday? I think the NFL will find a way to force some NFL players onto the 2028 team at the Olympics, but I don't necessarily think those guys are going to make the team better. It is a different sport. I mean, the quickness on display yesterday, the NFL guys, they're risking their ACLs and their Achilles, I think, just to pull flags because these guys are so small. They weigh like 130. The quarterback, the star quarterback of the flag football team, weighs 135 pounds. And NFL guys are built for a physical game, a longer wind-up kind of game. I mean, you got a 100-yard field. It's like the difference between actual tennis and table tennis and ping pong, right? I just think it's a different sport. The flag football guys dominated. It would take tremendous allocation of time and resources for NFL players to play at the level of the guys who are dedicated for flag football. And even then, you would have to have the smallest guys. So, like, Kyler Murray might be really good. But if Kyler Murray is a quarterback getting paid millions by an NFL team, would that team be okay with him putting in hours upon hours, months upon months of flag football preparation to be better than the guys who are specialized in flag football? I mean, I think that should have been a wake-up call to. Now, I'm sure to promote the sport in the Olympics, they'll find a way to get some NFL guys on the team. I just don't think that it's going to be that useful. And I think the difference between Team USA and everybody else in the world is probably big. I heard that Team USA flag football team hasn't lost in years. So they can probably, this is funny to say, but they can probably absorb a couple NFL guys on the team and still be better than everybody else. But I think that there's a good chance the NFL guys make them worse, as you saw yesterday. It was interesting to watch, and good for the flag football guys for being head and shoulders ahead of the NFL guys. They have worked on their craft. They deserve the shine. They deserve the credit. I thought that parts of that were actually fairly entertaining, and I'm looking forward to watching them as they prepare for the Olympics in 2028. Odell was damn good. I mean, we all know that Odell's got massive hands and he's able to make those one-handed catches, and he made that one-handed catch on the throw. Was it Burrow throwing to him? I think it was Joe Burrow throwing to him in the first game. And that was cool. But yeah, I think if you have an NFL guy that has an advantage, it's because of the size, right? They could throw some jump balls maybe to the NFL guys, and the flag guys are much smaller. So that might be a spot where an NFL guy can give the team a comparative advantage. Odell even looked like a giant out there next to the guys on the Team USA flag football team, but they couldn't play defense. They couldn't keep up. They couldn't grab the flags. Kyle Shanahan was concerned about that early on in the afternoon, and then it just got worse and worse as the afternoon went on. And that's going to be a problem for any bigger guy trying to play some of those smaller flag football guys. Now, I will say that the play of the afternoon for the NFL guys was Tom Brady sidestepping the rush and then finding Stephon Diggs for the touchdown of the back corner. I mean, Brady could probably still play. And then, especially now with the rules protecting quarterbacks, it wouldn't be crazy to see him come out of retirement. If Phillip Rivers did, Brady could move a whole lot better than Phillip Rivers, and it looks like he still has more juice on his throws than Phillip Rivers. So maybe we'll see Tom Brady back out there for a few games. Just kidding, maybe not. But he hinted at it on social media. I liked his sidestep play. All right, everybody, go and watch this video. I'm going to end by putting up the short, and you guys can go watch the upload if you haven't watched it yet. Mike worked hard on some graphics, and we talked about the 49ers and their renovation plans and the oldest offense in the league and the youngest defense in the league. So I think it's time for you guys to go check that video out. Hit the subscribe button, and you get 16 more minutes of good viewing if you go watch this one right now. So we'll talk to you all very soon, and go ahead and click on over. Take a look at this diagram for the 49ers offense. Red shade means that a player will be on the wrong side of 30 in this upcoming 2026 season. And it just so happens that every single one of these players has $0 to a very minimal amount of guaranteed money remaining on their contracts in 2027. Maybe you can call it a last dance kind of scenario, but not for the whole 49ers team, mainly for that San Francisco